Hello and welcome to the CRM Zen Show, where we talk about all things Zoho. This is episode 331, A World of Query-osity awaits, recorded on Wednesday, November 27th, an early episode here for Thanksgiving week. My name is Tyler Colt.
And I'm Greg Belnap. Let's get right on into the show.
All right, let's do it. Brett is out of office this week, so I'm joined by Greg. I think first time on the show since the new haircut, the rebrand of Greg.
Yes.
I'm a big fan. Let us know. We'll do that YouTuber thing. Let us know in the comments below what you think of Greg's new hair. I am pro on the new hair era for Greg.
I'm excited to see people leave mean comments about it. Yeah, because
that's
what you're inviting. You're saying, let us know. Should Greg feel bad about himself and his self-image? Good fostering of a good
Take it away, commenters. Take it away. You all are funnier than me, so I'll leave it to you to roast Greg. But with that, we do have a decent bit of news that we need to get into, so let's jump into that. But first, a quick word from our sponsor.
Are you struggling to get your team trained in using Zoho effectively? Considering the hefty costs of team meetings and onboarding sessions dedicated to Zoho training, there has to be an easier way. Say hello to efficiency with our Zoho team training courses. Zoho CRM made easy. Become a project management pro, top-tier customer support, and maximize your marketing impact. Are you ready to equip your team? Start today at zenatta.com/training and let us lead the way.
All right. So first story here, kind of just an announcement letting everybody know. So Zoholics, of course, is Zoho's annual conference where they bring in their global team, lots of product managers, partners like us, and a ton of different customers all get together in a big old convention center and nerd out about Zoho. Oftentimes is a great time to get direct one-on-ones with Zoho, kind of get some updates about product releases and updates that are coming up. So well worth attending if you are a Zoho user. They've announced this. It's going to be May 13th to 15th in Houston for this year for our US attendees. That's, of course, going to be in 2025. 2-day conference, bunch of different sessions. We'll have the keynotes from their leadership teams, as well as, again, all of the different product managers. This is just over at events.zoho.com/Zoholics USA 2025. We'll also have a link over in Club Zenatta as well for easy access. Get your tickets. They did, one thing I'll let you know is at least last year with Austin, you were able to get tickets pretty easily. The hotels booked up kind of quick. So if you are planning on going, just do it sooner than later, just so you can get a nice one that's near the venue and you're not having to, hoof it in every day to get on site. But well worth attending. We'll probably be there in some way, shape, or form. We're never sure exactly who's going to go on the Zenatta team. Well worth checking out if you're a Zoho nerd like we are.
I mean, I hope that I get picked to go because I need to go defend my high score on the VR game that they had at the last Zoholics.
True. Yeah, VR Zoho trivia.
Yeah. Putting little cubes on shelves. It's great. It's a great time.
So definitely go ahead, go grab your tickets. Well worth checking out, and we hope to see you there. Next story here coming from CRM, and Greg and I both had to read through this one twice to really get an idea of what this is and how it's going to be used. So this is queries in Zoho CRM. So really what this is they've rolled out a tool called a query that is a way that you can set up basically a search either from CRM data that's readily available or from data sources that are external to Zoho. So you're kind of using a little UI tool here to choose like, hey, where am I going to run this search from? What fields am I going to use? Where am I going to go get the data from? So if it's Zoho, it'll be a Zoho API. If it's outside of Zoho, it will be a third-party API endpoint. Kind of choose like if you have any criteria that you want. They've got a serializer for if you need to adjust any data formatting. So this would be like, maybe I pull a request and I get the data Greg Belnap And then separately, I get director of Zoho development. Maybe I want it to display as one word or one phrase rather than two different fields. You can kind of combine things. And then lastly, you can then associate those queries either into a Canvas view or into Kiosk Studio. So you might be thinking, well, you guys on the show talk all the time about how you can do this type of thing using scripts. This is similar to like when we set up those custom related lists via XML. The nice thing here is you can do it without a script. So if you're watching us on YouTube, you can see essentially what they've done here for their Canvas view is add this table, deals where your attention needed, where, maybe we're filtering these out based on a certain stage, right? So rather than seeing all deals, I'm seeing deals that are high value or that are in negotiation or whatever it may be. You're also able to do these in kiosks. So if you want to have some type of search and select functionality, you can use a query to get there rather than just the default, search records options here. So one of the cool things I will highlight is they're starting in Canvas view and Kiosk. This will be coming to the standard list and detail views soon. So cool thing there is like, again, we've always defaulted to using XML related lists for this use case, but those are kind of a pain in the butt. And if you're not a coder, or if you are a coder but you hate XML like most coders do, you'll know that they're just kind of frustrating to work with. And this seems to be a much simpler way to do a very similar thing.
Yeah, we're excited to explore this a little bit more. One of my devs noticed this pop up in the CRM a little earlier this week, tipped me off to it. But didn't really wasn't really able to even start understanding it until I got into the CRM Zen show notes to figure out what was going on. But yeah, I think this is going to. I think if you're a coder, you probably won't need to use this necessarily. But if you have a twinge of deluge experience, this is or if you have SQL experience, right, and you know how to write a SQL query for like the COQL side of it, but you're not a deluge scripter, then this could be really useful for that.
Yeah. Big thing too that I would see here, especially once it's added for like our list views, is there are a lot of like things that seem like they should be really simple that a lot of people want that aren't there. So like a common one is, let's say you've got accounts and you've got contacts, and some of those contacts are marked as inactive or no longer with the company. People oftentimes say, well, I want a list of contacts that aren't inactive anymore, right? Like, so that the active ones basically. And to do that, you need an XML related list, which again, for a lot of people is just a pain in the butt. Where like using this, you should be able to pretty much set that up without any code, right? You'd have this query, you'd pull from contacts, you'd filter where account ID is the account ID and status is not inactive. Boom, pick your columns, good to go. You have your list of active contacts at that point. High priority deals is another one. Accepted quotes on an account, like especially for, some clients, they do a lot of business with a small amount of accounts. And every time they're going to work with them, they'll send them 3 or 4 quotes, knowing that only one's going to get accepted. Then they go into the account, they look at the quotes list. It's got like 40 records in it, but 5 of them have been accepted. And those are the ones we really care about seeing. So there's a lot of cases where you kind of want to filter a related list. I do know, or I think that Zoho is kind of working on adding filters to those lists anyways, but being able to do it this way is another option that you'd basically be able to set up right now and have running in your system. So yeah, there's one that first time I read through it, I didn't really get it. I was like, why would anybody do this? But then I thought about how annoying XML related lists are to work with. And it was like, you know what? That's why, because you don't have to do XML.
And the more that we talk about it, I'm realizing that the reason why we are fine with XML related lists now is that we figured it out like a templated version. And so we now have that just like in a repository. And so we're like, oh, an XML related list, copy,
no big
paste,
deal.
Fill in the parameters. But yeah, if you're starting it from scratch, it's a
very annoying.
It's a mind boggle.
But sweet. So yeah, definitely take a look at those. Should be pretty useful. Next update here. This is a big one. I was really surprised by this. I don't know if this is a news story or if Wayne and our team just kind of saw this. So apparently, it went away. Zoho Payroll is now supporting all 50 states. I don't know how they got there so quickly because last time I checked, it was like 14 or 15. And basically you need to like set up, Zoho needs to set up like the payroll and HR compliance state by state. I'm wondering if they acquired something in the background or they licensed some type of tool. I know their plan was to do this all themselves, one by one. I always thought that they should just acquire or license something in the background because that's really hard and complicated to set up every state. But yeah, so now they've got payroll for all 50 states. Now, each employee can really only be allocated to one state. That is going to be the case for like 99.9% of businesses. So it's very rare that you need to split an employee's time between states. But so this will work for really the vast majority of people now. Yeah, I don't know how they did it. There wasn't like a news article. We didn't see anything mentioning an acquisition or any type of deal. So maybe they just did a bunch of them quietly in the background and rolled it all out and didn't tell anybody. But yeah, shout out to Zoho Payroll, now 50 states compliant.
So you can have different employees in different states. Like you could have like remote workers, or is it like your organization has to be tied to a particular state?
Yeah, that's the question. I know up till now, if I understand correctly, you do need to be everybody within one state. So it looks like maybe that's still the case. Pay all your employees within a state. Throughout the state. They keep using a lot of singular verbiage here.
Definitive articles.
Yeah, definitive articles. Thank you. So it seems like maybe still just working in one state at a time. So you'd have like the, Colorado edition of payroll. I don't know if you're still able to have employees across multiple states. So remote companies or companies that are larger with many different offices, maybe not going to work out here. But if you are like a single proprietor, small team inside of one state, looks like you can now consider moving over to Zoho Payroll. All right. And with that, we'll jump into our next story here in the world of Zoho Desk. So this is kind of a write-up covering in the theme of thankfulness on Thanksgiving, all of the gamification tools that are set up inside of Zoho Desk. Really, all of these gamifications, just ways to give some kind of point values and goals and trophies to people for different activities that you want to encourage within an application. I would say with gamification, one of the tips that I will give, the cases where I see it work well is when there's an actual prize. When the only prize is just the trophy that is in the application itself, people don't really seem to care that much. But if it's some type of monthly bonus or kicker or something like that, then people will play the game. But this is really just a write-up here encouraging you to be thankful of your support agents, whether they are outside of your company or inside of your company, and then covering all the various tools that they've got inside of Desk to encourage that. So definitely well worth trying out. I mean, I know the motivator in the CRM is kind of their approach. A lot of people love that. Mm-hmm. We haven't set it up as often inside of Zoho Desk, but they do have pretty robust tools there for doing a lot of those same gamification workflows.
I like their shout out to all the support heroes. It's a cruel irony that the best support agents probably have to deal with the worst customers, and then all of the good, nice customers get the bad support agents. We just can't ever seem to get the two to line up right. So
yeah, it's one of those paradigms in customer service.
Yep.
All right. And with that, wrapping out the news, one more story from the world of Zoho Desk. So this is kind of an update for the dashboards inside of Zoho Desk. So this is one of those ones, thought this was already there. So they've added KPI cards inside of Desk. A KPI card, of course, is kind of like a smaller call out metric. So rather than like putting something on a bar chart over time, you're kind of like hey, your goal is 100, you're at 70, you've got this dial, right? Or you've got a bar hitting target, you've got some type of summary. You can compare this month versus last, kind of progress to goal. If you're a CRM user, it's a pretty similar set of KPI metrics you'll have available inside a desk. Really nice. I mean, a lot of the times when we're doing reporting and dashboards in Zoho for like managers and leadership, those will oftentimes live in Zoho Analytics. For day-to-day users, we'll normally put them in the application itself because then the data updates immediately and they're kind of able to see like, hey, ticket closed, I'm one notch higher, right, in my dial. They want to see that right away. So being able to include KPI data here is really nice and will allow us to give that data in just an easier to read and quickly see format.
Yeah, and anybody who uses dashboards in Zoho Analytics will definitely recognize these KPI cards as the same things as in let's see, in analytics dashboards they call those widgets.
Widgets, yep. And in CRM, they're KPIs. But yeah, different names in different places. All right. With that, I think we've wrapped out the news for this week. So with that, we'll jump right on over to our implementation of the week. All right. So this one comes from Lucas Santana, one of our consultants. He scoped and built this, so just his name on the page today. So we've done a lot of work and we've done a lot of implementations of the week, all centered around the way that WorkDrive and CRM can interact. This is the one area that I don't think we've covered, which is the actual files themselves being added as templates. So you hear us talk a lot about, when you convert a lead, when you win a deal, whatever it may be, we'll go ahead and create WorkDrive folders. And those folders can have like a parent, a child of a child, really as many layers of folder management as one might need. In this case, what we're doing here is we're creating those folders, but then we're also loading document templates into those folders based on some rules. So in this case, we have a client. They will be working with a lead that will select from a variety of different kind of products and services. And those different products and services might have informational pamphlets, disclosures, right? Like different pieces of information that we want to provide to that client based on their interest in those products and services. So in this case, we kind of go the step further where, when that lead is converted, the script will run and it will look at the information on that lead and determine which types of folders and which files are going to be applicable for them. Then it will create that folder structure and then actually clone those files into the appropriate place in the folder structure to share out to that particular lead. Just so that we're doing more than creating the folders, we're actually adding files directly into them, which are then automatically sent out using the public share URLs available inside of WorkDrive. So kind of just taking it one step further, you're basically giving them like a packet or a pamphlet just via the Zoho WorkDrive folder structures, where everything is being loaded in automatically so that nobody really has to think about doing this when a customer is kind of indicates interest in a particular product or service.
Yeah. I mean, great.
Yeah, nothing to add. All good. Good one. Big shout out to Lucas for this. I know this is going to save the client a lot of time. This is one of those ones that sounds simple, but there's like a ton of permutations in this, so different files and folders that might need to get created. So definitely going to save them a huge amount of time. Shout out to Lucas for putting this together, and hope everybody finds it interesting.
Yeah, and always good to another PSA for using cloud storage, like WorkDrive is a much better choice than, like keeping files directly on, like individual app records, just because you might need to use that file somewhere else, and just like storage space. It's
you never want to find yourself buying storage space in CRM. It is a bad deal.
Yeah.
One of the very few things in the world of Zoho that's a bad deal is buying gigabytes of storage for CRM. For your file attachments. All right, and with that, let's jump right on over to Club Z and see our code share of the week. All right. So this one comes from Eduardo, aka Eddie, on the Zenatta team. And it's all about calculating the next birthday dates with precise logic in Zoho. Do you want to take us through this one, Greg?
Sure. Yeah. So this is in case you have obviously the need to, let's say that you want to be able to send birthday messages to some of your clients or customers. You need to know, when is their next birthday, because if you want to run something on a date field, unfortunately you can't just put like a month and day in a date field. You
Yeah.
have to also put a year.
Yeah. So
So
this would be like workflow, right? Like on this
okay,
date, send this email. That's kind of what we're talking about.
yes, exactly. And so this is just a little formula that Eddie has put together that will, take a look at their current date of birth, get the month value, and then structure the next uh, year. And so this is, I believe, starting with, so this is if you have their birth date as a date
Yeah.
field somewhere, right?
Yep.
So mine's in 1990, so it'd be way back then. Is
Wow, you're
1990 really
old.
way back then? Oh my gosh. Anyway, and then yes, to calculate the like, okay, given this person was born on that date, when is their next upcoming birthday? So basically, it just checks if their birthday month is, if their birthday's already happened this year, setting it to next year. And then if their birthday has not happened yet, then setting their birthday year to this year.
Yep. Got it.
Yeah.
And then what you'd probably want to do is like have a function such that, let's say you want to send out the birthday reminder. You would
Mhm.
trigger that on birthday, and then you might do like a scheduled action one day later to run this function again, right? And that would bump your
Yep.
date to the following year because now your birth date's in the past.
That's
So
right.
kind of just build a little bit of a loop there. But
Mhm.
yeah, really nice build. This is actually one of those funny ones where just because of that limitation that Greg highlighted, where when you set up a date-based workflow, it has to be the day, the month, and the year. It's really common that people want to send out birthday stuff, right? Or even get a task, right? Like some people will say like,
Mhm.
if a customer is, above a certain revenue threshold, 2 weeks before their birthday, give me a task so I can send them a gift basket, whatever it may be. And it's actually a bit of a puzzler for a lot of people if you're not familiar with Deluge, because there just isn't an easy way to push it to that next year. So yeah, nice build out, Eddie. This is again one of those ones I always like to imagine some developer somewhere scouring the internet trying to find an easy way to do this, and then stumbling onto this beautiful post that will just
Like
save
an
them a lot
oasis
of
in the
time
desert.
and effort. Yeah. Next one here, Josh messaged us mid-show and insisted, yeah, this went up 17 minutes ago, so during this show, and insisted that we share this one. So this is a function that will give you Thanksgiving Day every year. The reason this one, I think he just did it as a logic puzzle. Josh just entertains himself by writing Deluge. You might think this is simple, but it actually has a bit more weirdness to it because it's not the same day every year, right? It might be the 28th, 24th, whatever. Because it's the fourth Thursday of every November. So really what he's doing here is he's giving November 1st, and then he's calculating the number of Thursdays after November 1st to find a new day, and then getting that date back. So just bit of a iteration function here to give you Thursday or the fourth Thursday of every November so that you can send out a Thanksgiving notice to everybody if you so chose. Why not?
Gobble
Why
gobble.
not? With that, I think we're ready to jump on over to Zenatta.com and check out what is new over there. All right. So I think this article is becoming a bit of an annual tradition that we do every year. This is Wayne's Don't Be a Turkey, Switch to Zoho 1 article. This is really just a piece kind of writing through some of the things we love the most about Zoho 1. Really everything from the pricing, the applications, the updates, the security, kind of the community around it. again, lots of people end up saving money with Zoho One. If you're somebody out there who is using, let's say, CRM Enterprise, and you have the majority of your company on that, and maybe you've got a couple other odds and ends Zoho applications, or you have some other third parties that are really similar, like you're on MailChimp instead of Campaigns, you're on DocuSign instead of Zoho Sign, you really can save a decent chunk of change by moving over. It's basically the same price per user as CRM Enterprise if you're on that all-employee plan. So that's why I always think about it like that, where it's like, hey, you're 80-90% of people on CRM. You're probably like right about at that break even, where if there's one or two apps you can move over, it'll make sense. Never want to force it if it's going to cost you more and you don't need it. But for a lot of people, you'll find a ton of value. And he even goes through like some of these really commonly used ones that are a great value just tucked into Zoho One.
Yeah, just tucked right in there. There is a lot of value, I think, in just that when you do Zoho One, you get both Zoho Flow and Zoho Creator.
Analytics behind the scenes.
Yeah, and analytics. Especially because like Zoho Flow and Creator, they can both like really help you with like workarounds for like just some of those limitations that you run into with the CRM, and you're like, I just need to well, and then in the case of if you're using Zoho Inventory, for example, there is not a workflow trigger on update of a package, but there is one for Zoho Flow.
I was going to use that exact example. It's funny you said that.
Don't know why exactly that is the case. You think of it this, you can have it in one, you can have it in the other, but so if you have Zoho One, then you can very easily set up a Zoho Flow to trigger a workflow on, when a package gets updated, because it's been delivered, and you need that update pushed somewhere else.
Yeah, or even just adding in analytics. Like, I was talking to someone the other day, and they're just on CRM right now. And one of the main things he was talking to us about as a prospect was calculating commissions. And he's like, okay, so I've got this commissions module and I've got this set of rules. But his commission structure was kind of tier-based. So it's like, okay, if you're $10,000 of sales this month, you get nothing on the first 10 to 20, you get this, 20, 30, you get this. And he's like, this function's going to be so difficult because every time that we win a deal, I'm going to have to sum up all the revenue and put in these buckets. I was like, or hear me out. You just do this in analytics with an aggregate function and it's done super easily. Yep. And so he didn't even know analytics was a thing in the world of Zoho that was there. And I was like, oh, how many of your people are on CRM? He's like, everybody. They're like a sales organization, basically. So everybody at the company's in CRM in one way, shape, or form. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, for I think $2 more a month, you're rolling over and we'll solve that way easier than having to do all this other stuff. So it is well worth considering.
Continuing the shout out for analytics, especially they're when it comes to reporting, if you're trying to do all of your reporting out of just the CRM or out of just Zoho Books or something like that, the problem is that there are limitations to how much you can relate different records from different modules together, and then the kind of like pathways they take. So what you end up doing in something like the CRM is you end up creating all these extra like fields, like duplicate fields of, all right, I got to have all these fields from an account module and I got to copy them over to the deal record and set up workflows to keep those fields synced so that then when I run a report on the deals, I can I can filter on stuff that has to do with the account or has to do with, whatever. And if you use analytics to care about your reporting, you can set all those relationships up in there and you don't need to deal with duplicate data in the CRM.
Yeah. Well, because then you get into that problem, right, of like a really simple example is like, let's say you're pulling the address from the account to the deal, right? And so you set up a workflow where on create of a deal, it pulls that address down. Well, what if the sales rep is talking to the person and they're like, oh no, we changed address. We moved our warehouse. It's over here now. They update that in the deal. Well, you better have another function that's going to write it from the deal back to the account so that in the future, you just end up in this like matrix of different workflows triggering in different places. just to keep like field values the same across different records. And sure, it's fine. And you document them all and you write them in there. And like, we've done that actually for people if they're like, no, we're only on CRM. We've got these limitations on budget. It's all good. But man, if you can get analytics in play, it sure does make life a lot easier. Write one SQL script over there and you're just good to go without having to manage all of that data flow. Just to copy fields, right? Same field, just being copied back and forth to make sure any edits are reconciled.
Yep.
Also, over on Zenatta.com, we do have a new case study from BES. This is a nonprofit and kind of leadership development in schools. We've been working with Tim over there for quite a while at this point. He's worked with a couple different team members. Kind of built out the CRM, a Lens form integration. So this is not Zoho Lens, but this is essentially a form that's going to push data in through CRM and kind of kick off their process. Great case study there. Always appreciate that. Big shout out to Tim. Great client, really great to work with, and looking forward to keeping things moving forward for them in Zoho. And with that, I think we're ready to jump right on over to our tip of the week. All right. So this is over at youtube.com/Zenatta. Did a quick video this week just on a simple forms to CRM integration. We've done a couple videos on this over time. Like Jordan has kind of a pretty robust one that covers the push of data using Flow if you wanted to do like some more complicated dupe checking and things like that. But, 9 times out of 10, sending it directly to leads is more than good enough. And so I did just want to make a quick video in case anybody is stuck with that, just covering that integration pathway, a couple tips. I do go through and actually cover what each of these actions mean, because that is one area where it's not super obvious sometimes. Like, do I want this turned on? Do I want this turned off? So I did cover each of those and make sure that I highlight 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to trigger workflow rules unless you have a really specific reason not to. Right. So we'll kind of cover each of those in the video. Quick watch, just about 14 minutes. I think well worth your time. And then we show that lead actually landing here into CRM with all of that data included. Extra little bonus tip that I do show the trick with hidden fields to assign lead source, just as a simple way to do your lead attribution when forms are submitted. Head on over to Zenatta.com and check that out. That is, of course, where we have all of our videos. We just keep creating them. You can't stop us. Couple every single week, a tip video, WordPress webinars, the podcast, full episodes over there. So head on over. We would love to see you over on the channel. And with that, I think if I remember correctly, we have a returning segment from quite a while back where we're going to pull up a question here from our audience and answer it live here on the show. This is Azaz. Ask Zenatta anything about Zoho. So Freddie, go ahead and roll that stinger. There it is. The return. I'm not even on that image. I got exiled from that. So question here comes from John over at Club Zenatta. If you don't know, club.zenatta.com is a place where you can go drop all your questions about Zoho, and either us or our community will do our best to get it answered for you. So John has a question here kind of around using kiosks and blueprints. Really, the take home here of the question is that at a certain point in his process, he's gathered essentially the user has selected a user lookup and they have entered some information. And we want to use this to create a task assigned to that user who's in the user lookup field. John's basically asking everything else that I've collected in this process, whether they're fields on the record, fields in the kiosk, I can merge them right on into the create task, but not the user lookup field. It is not available. So he's asking, how do I do this? Am I crazy? Am I missing something? Is it not supported? So it is technically supported, but not in the default way. You can do this. You will need to use a deluge function, unfortunately. We don't mind using those, but it is more of a limitation that you'll need to know the deluge actions to do this. So yeah, Greg, maybe walk them through a little bit about our deluge flow here that we might need to implement to get this done.
Yeah. So what you have to do is pull in, obviously, the user field from, is this coming off of a deal, or this is
Yeah,
getting
probably
created?
a deal, but any record, yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, so you need to get the parent record, wherever this is getting spurned off from, and inside of that data there is an owner object that has the CRM user's name, the ID, sometimes their email is also put in there. And you need to grab that little ID number, then take that ID, and you have to generate an updating object that we call a map, put that in there, and then you could run a update record on the task. Now, all of this that I'm talking about, this is after the task has been created and saved. So I guess mine is kind of going off of the this would be like a workflow rule on save of a task. But Tyler, are you talking about actually writing a function that runs in
You've got kind of options. Yeah, you've got options, because you could do it that way, and it really just depends on your use case. Like Greg's idea there is basically like, hey, a task is created, it meets certain criteria, so it's going to run this user assignment function. You could do it that way if you've got different tasks at different points that need that same flow, and you're like, hey, I just want to write that once, and then the rest of my tasks I can just create using the normal interface. The other option would be, John, to add a workflow or a deluge action to the kiosk or blueprint itself that's doing this. It's a little more involved that way, because you'll need to set all the parameters of the task rather than just doing an update to that one. So a couple options there. I would definitely not recommend the idea of doing a branch and hard coding it for each of them. He kind of mentioned that was how he was thinking of doing it. I agree. It does seem a little silly, and it will get out of hand as your numbers of users increase. So I would definitely do this with a function. One pro tip, if you are working with task creation via deluge, there is a super secret hidden parameter that's really easy to forget about called $SE or $SE underscore module. That basically sets which module it's going to point to other than contacts. So if you wanted this to link, for example, to a contact and to a deal, you'll map deals to that SE underscore module. And then the deal ID will map to one of my favorite parameter names in Zoho, the what ID. Every task will have a who ID, which is just for contacts. And then it will have a what ID, which would be like a deal, an account, a custom module, or even a lead. A lead is a what, not a who. Always want to keep that in mind. So yeah, a couple things to consider there with this, John. I would definitely go the route of deluge in one way, shape, or form. I would not go the route of putting a bunch of branches into the kiosk. That is going to be such a pain in the butt for you over time that I just can't in good faith say that you should do that. Let's save you the pain and suffering on that one. All right. And I think with that, we're in this scene. So that means it's the end of the show. Thanks again for joining this week, Greg. I think you're going to be in for the next couple weeks. Brett is doing some traveling, so everybody get used to having Greg around here for a little while.
Happy to do it. I'm happy to bring the a little less hinge than Tyler does.
Beautiful. All right, so with that, if you do want to talk to myself or Greg, just head on over to Zenatta.com and click on book a meeting. On the website is also where you'll find complete episodes of the show, as well as links to all the stories we discussed today. If you want that news delivered to your inbox every Monday morning, be sure to also subscribe to our newsletter.
And head over to club.zenatta.com to check out the code shares that we talked about today, as well as a whole litany of code shares over the years. And if you want to get your team trained up on some of the key Zoho apps like Desk or Campaigns, head over to zenatta.com/training to get your team trained today.
Last but not least, we always appreciate when you like and subscribe here on YouTube, as well as your choice of podcast app. We'll see you next Friday.
The CRM Zen Show was produced by Podcaster Zen.